Hello and welcome to Frontline. Thanks for joining. Today, I want to have some fun discussing the portrayal of EMS in video games, specifically how little there is. Not to worry though, recent trends in pop culture have been giving the emergency services, and specifically medics, some much needed love. We have reality and drama-based TV partly to thank for this. Shows based on medics have been making a splash in the last few years. The quality and accuracy of these can range from hyper-realistic to completely laughable.
Get me some saline, alcohol, and a scalpel for a fasciotomy.
Oh, I'm pretty sure all of this is supposed to be on the inside of his body.
So let's just focus on video games for today. First, let's start by taking a look at what we've had to work with so far, what we have to look forward to in the future, and later on by bringing some attention to the cutting edge of modern medical simulators, which, come on, are basically just professional games.
That's how I lost my medical license. Archimedes!
The common theme in any modern game with a health system is the cultivate of balance, a tug-of-war between having fun and simulating some sense of realism or real-world concept. If the developers move too far in one direction or the other, it can put their title into a niche market and limit the audience. I think this is why today you could easily throw a dart and hit a shooter game where you portray the typical bullet sponge super soldier. When you think about it, law enforcement titles have the same issue. No one wants to play a game where you read Miranda rights while treating every vulgar suspect with professional respect and dignity.
Excuse me, I need to ask you a few questions.
Nope.
Even firefighters have their own games where you can play with the hoses and drive the big trucks. Yay! EMS titles, where a medic is the core protagonist, are few and far between. Often, they are difficult to do right and even harder to make fun. Case in point, the website thegamer.com released an article showcasing their 14 best medical games. There was no EMS titles that made the list. So personally, I'm holding out for the game that'll portray me as a Nicolas Cage on the edge, desperately trying to save lives while fighting off my growing insanity.
Come on, John. The city's burning.
Often, the most popular games that portray any type of medical role downplay the medicine in favor of a faster pace and less tedium. And I agree, it's almost always the right choice. The Battlefield franchise uses a simple revive system to keep the action going. I can recall enjoying the medical class to heal, my incapacitated teammates. Suspension of all disbelief is usually a must for these titles. Did that guy just explode out of a helicopter? Fall 200 meters into the crumbling skyscraper below? No problem. You've collected half a magazine in your chest? Let me just defib that out of you. Good to go. Games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and Far Cry shift the aspect of the health system to match their preferred style of action gaming. Quick syringe, a dressing, or maybe some minor surgery is all you'll need to get back in the fight. And hey, at least they're not using a food-based health system. America's Army was my first introduction to a game that included some form of structured medical training. Released in 2002, this multiplayer game was developed and published by the US Army and ensured all players would pass qualification training for their equipment, weapons, and the squad role they wanted to fill on their team. America's Army would include optional medical training designed to provide real-world information. In fact, in order to assume the role of a combat lifesaver in the game, players had to pass a virtual medical training course based on actual training that soldiers receive with regard to evaluating and prioritizing casualties, controlling bleeding, recognizing and treating shock, and administering aid when victims are not breathing. So realistic was this game-based training that 2 America's Army players have reported using the training they received in-game to save lives in real emergency situations. The game was marketed and designed to allow Americans to virtually explore the Army at their own pace. So basically it was a recruitment device. Other in-depth simulators, like Arma and Squad, find a better middle ground by placing a larger role on health and treatment while charging the player steep penalties for taking damage or being resuscitated. I've personally found Squad to have a great community that values anyone willing to play the medic class and help out their team. Medic Pacific War, planned to release in 2021, is a game where you strictly play the role of a combat medic in the Pacific Theater during World War II. A large emphasis is placed on staying alive while you bandage your teammates and move them out of the combat zone. It also looks heavily inspired from the movie Hacksaw Ridge. If a more civilian EMS-based game is your thing, don't worry, they're also making an entry. Ambulance Simulator has you arriving on scene, assessing the situation, conducting triage, treatment, and then transport. I'm interested to see what kind of interest this garners and how the sales perform. It's probably one of the best EMS games that I've seen, but they can't all be winners, and that brings us to something that resembles more of a GTA arcade style is Flashing Lights, where you take control of police, fire, and EMS. This particular game includes such hyper-realistic situations such as you gassing up your unit and seemingly struggle to get your stretcher out of the ambulance. So lifelike. For the medical students out there, training through a video game medium has become a reality. Virtual reality, in fact. VR has been making a big entrance, and although it may be a long way off to the total immersion we crave for the gaming stage, many universities and hospitals see them as a less expensive way to program a wide range of teachable scenarios. VR is quickly becoming a leading technology to drive healthcare training forward with endless programmable possibilities. Also, bonus, this is like a great way to avoid the nightmare fuel that is the current trend of using horrific plastic training simulators. The benefits of VR allow you to train residents and professionals in dangerous case studies such as multi-trauma, at-risk populations, and the dreaded pediatric call, all without ever endangering a patient for the sake of training a student. Techniques that improve with muscle memory and high-risk procedures can be practiced over and over again. More invasive hands-on skills can be repeated, all while avoiding the disadvantages and logistic issues that come with maintaining cadaver labs.
Okay, I've got bilateral breath sounds, but the right does seem weaker than the left. I've got good 2+ radial pulses as well.
Students will gain an opportunity to practice their bedside manner, become accustomed to baseline vital signs and diagnostics, all in real time without leaving the VR headset. They can continue to practice at home while easily resetting or changing scenarios with a push of a button. Perhaps there are also less ethical qualms that will arise with controversial research or while making study-based alterations to the current training standards. Considering all of this, VR does have its drawbacks, however. From initial startup costs to not feeling any true haptic feedback you may find with rubber mannequins or high-tech dummies. Limitations in the software, artificial intelligence, and the demand for greater computing power are also factors you need to consider. Such trade-offs will continue to become more insignificant as the technology improves and becomes less expensive. Hospitals can now consider how virtual reality can provide a reduction in long-term costs, scenario lab space, and technician staff. After all, even in healthcare, it often comes down to the money. Thanks for watching. Please consider dropping a like for more, and have yourself a great day.